What if you stopped believing what failure said to you? What if you stopped believing all the noises in your head? What if? What if? Hi, welcome back to Thrive Out Loud. I'm so glad you found me once again. That's Henula and welcome to Thrive Out Loud. This is our third official video and shame the excitement is just consuming me. Thank you so much for the love you've been showing to the past two videos. I really appreciate all the likes, all the comments, all the feedback I've been receiving is amazing. Just a side note, I'm aware the audio was a bit off on my previous video. I was taking chances with recording while my son was fast asleep, trying not to wake him up, and obviously, yeah, no, that backfired. But I'm sorting out the audio issue, and thank you so much for your feedback. I really appreciate those people that are able to say, hey, not to sound negative or not to, like, I don't mean to sound mean, but I really appreciate all of them. Imagine a world where you stop believing what fear said to you. What does it feel like? So today, getting into today's topic, now that I've gotten over my fear of starting something new, which was this channel and the corresponding podcast called Thrive Out Loud, I realized that it would only be fair to have a sit down and chat about this fear that I had been running away for the last couple of years, because this idea to start a YouTube channel didn't suddenly come up now. It didn't come up last year, not even the year before. Sure, I'm talking about 2018, as far back as 2017 when this idea first came, and I was like, no, not me, not the camera, not this, not me, not you, not the camera, we're not doing this, right? But obviously it gets to a point where you run out of reasons, you run out of excuses, you run out of things convincing you why not. I ran out of the why not, and I realized that this whole time those were actually not reasons, they were excuses, and those excuses were brought on by this fear I had. So today I wanted to talk about silencing your fears. Why do we give so much credit to our fear? Who said fear is the big boss? I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this one line caught my attention. Just because you cannot do something right now doesn't mean you will not do it. What if you stop believing what fear said to you? What if you stopped giving fear a chance to even speak to you? What if you pushed past all that noise and did it anyway? What if you stopped focusing on your fear, but instead focused on the good feelings this new thing gave you? Because I'd like to believe you're not walking around with a big bag full of negativity and negative emotions, right? Otherwise, the space may not be for you. But all I'm saying is, I'd like to think that whatever idea you have, whatever it is that you're thinking of starting, it evokes some sort of positive feelings and positive emotions. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel great about yourself. And that's what I want to focus on today. So what if you tried? What if you tried, dusty and all, hurt and all? What if you actually got up and tried? What if you gave it your all and see how far it took you? What if fear stopped being part of your equation? What if fear stopped being given such a big platform? What if we stopped giving fear such a big platform? What if we stopped giving our fear so much credit? Imagine you are in a wheelchair because you believe you can't walk. You spend a couple of years in a wheelchair learning how to use a wheelchair and learning how to be bound to this, learning how to adapt to this new way of living. At some point, your feet start to work, you're unaware, and you're unwilling to try because you think you can't really walk. Then one day you fall off the wheelchair and you realize your feet were working all along. It wasn't your body, it was your brain. And that's exactly how fear works. It's not your body, it's your brain. It's not your capabilities, it's your brain. It's not you, it's your brain. I'm on my journey to kind of overcoming this fear that I had of starting something new, on my journey to starting that something new and silencing all the noise, all the fear, all the anxiety. I realized that there was a pattern. There's a couple of tips I picked up along the way on what helped me overcome my fear, and I thought I should share with you. So here are, I don't know how many different tips on how to overcome your fear, steps that you can start implementing today, right at this moment. After this video, overcome your fear. Number one, is acceptance. Accept the situation for what it is and accept how it makes you feel. Accept that, you know what, I am afraid. I am afraid, and this is what I'm afraid of. Accept that I'm walking into a brand new chapter, a thing that I'm unfamiliar with, and this makes me nervous and afraid. Accept that you are afraid of how it will be received. Accept that you're afraid people might not like what you have to put out. Accept that this is the point where you are at and this is how it makes you feel. I think once we move past the acceptance stage, then you're able to deal with things that are tangible, things that you know. How do you diagnose a thing you don't know? How do you solve a problem you didn't know you have? How do you solve a problem you don't know you have? Accept all these emotions that a situation brings us. It's natural for us to try and shy away from what we deem as negative emotions because we're told about how we need to remain positive and find a silver lining and follow the rainbow and run into the rainbow, whatever that is. But accept the situation for what it is and how it makes you feel. Acknowledge all the feelings that come with it, however heavy, however dark they are. You may be nervous, you may be overwhelmed, you may be feeling anxious, you may be feeling stressed, frustrated, rage, whatever it is that you're feeling towards this situation that makes you fearful, accept it and own it so that it doesn't own you. Number 2, your life is not over. You know that, right? Just because you fail at a certain thing does not mean your life is over. Relax. Failure is not the end of the road. In fact, I think failure is the very beginning of the road because now you have a roadmap. You know what not to do. You know what routes not to take. You know what tips and tricks not to try out because you fell flat on your face. I get it. And it sucks failing. I've been there several times. But avoiding failure is not helping anyone. It's only keeping you in a corner, crippled by fear because what if I fail? What if it doesn't work?
But what if it works out?
What if you don't fail and it works out? Have you thought of that? We need to accept that there are different aspects in our life that will not always work out the way we want them to. Could be your life as a student, your life as a professional, your career, your love life, your social life, your hobbies, your side hustle, this or that. It could be anything. There's several aspects that build up a person, and it's normal for them not to always work out the way we planned that they would work out. It's life. That's just how it works. Tip number 3 is about the lessons learned. What lessons did you learn from this situation? Assuming that once you try something and it doesn't work out, or if you feel like you failed at a thing, you kind of have clues or you know why. This is the point where you confront what you did wrong and how you could have done it better, what you could have done differently. Where did you go wrong? Where did you miss the mark? At what point did you miss the mark completely? At what point did you derail yourself? There are clues to these things. So this is the part where you sit down with yourself, intentionally be vulnerable with yourself, because on this channel, we're not shy with ourselves, right? I'm assuming we're not. Anyway, this is the part where you're honest with yourself. What did I do? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? How could I have done it better? And what do I do from this point on? Where to from here? Because the beauty of learning lessons is that you get to now change your narrative. You now get to rewrite your story using the wisdom from that lesson that you've learned. So at this point, you need to be as intentional as you possibly can to avoid making the same mistakes. Because I would hate to imagine
falling flat on my face in the same spot twice. That wouldn't be fun.
Number 4, seek inspiration elsewhere. There's at least one other person out there who has done what you're trying to do. Find inspiration from there. There's at least one person who has succeeded at this very thing that you're trying to do. Find inspiration from them. Draw inspiration from them. Instead of focusing on the fact that you tried and it didn't work out, try and get clues, because one thing about success, it leaves clues. Try and see what these people did, what they did differently, and how you can make it work for you, how you can make their success like a personal story for you. Try and find the little clues. In my instance, we know the YouTube big shots. I absolutely adore Mpumi Lidwaba, absolutely adore Kopano Shimange, yours channel, you name them. These are people who have kind of made it and kind of left trails and left a roadmap for us. They're consistent. Mpumi is all about excellence. Aus Kopano is all about being intentional and cutting out the fluff. Yours is all about being honest, being raw, and remaining authentic to yourself. Find clues from people who have done it and draw inspiration from them. Maybe a change of scenery might be just what you need. A change of scenery, I mean, shifting your focus from what didn't work and moving it to what did work. Who has done this? Who did it work for? Who has done it properly? And who can I draw inspiration from? Who has made it in this field that I'm trying to enter into, and then taking it from there. If you must seek mentorship, do so. If you must reach out, slide into people's DMs, trying to do your research, then do that. The sky's the limit. What's stopping you now? Tip number 5 is all about passion. Sometimes a thing we do or a thing we're trying to do doesn't work out because we're not really as passionate about it as we thought we were. Do something you're passionate about. Be passionate about what you're doing. Do something you're passionate about. I'll use those interchangeably because at some point or on some days, you're not really feeling like yourself, even though you like what you're doing or even though you love what you're doing. This is the part where you need to intentionally be passionate about what you're doing. But it should majorly be the adverse of that. Do what you're passionate about, because there's a saying that if you do what you love or if you do what you're passionate about, it will never feel like work. You'll never feel like you're working. It's a thing that you won't necessarily feel like is a job for you. You won't feel like it's draining you. Something that normal work does to most, if not all of us. So be passionate about what you're doing. Maybe the reason it didn't work out was because you're not as passionate about it as you thought. Maybe the reason why you fell flat on your face was because the passion you had for it was not communicating with maybe the effort you were putting into it. Because when you're passionate about something, when you love something you're doing, it almost instantly just spikes up your energy levels, and the way you show up for that thing will definitely show. So go back, sit down with yourself, look at that thing. Were you passionate about it? Yes, no? If you were passionate about it, did you put in as much effort as you were supposed to? Did you put in an effort that matched the passion you had for this thing? If you are not passionate about it, well, then you have your answer. That's the wrong thing for you, and that's where you can change direction. But if it's a thing that you were passionate about or are passionate about, then it's a thing where you can now confront your effort towards it and find what you can fix about it. Sometimes we are the ones that set ourselves up for failure because we half-ass things. We don't give things our all because subconsciously we've already told ourselves it won't work out. So if I do just the bare minimum and it doesn't work out, then I was right. But that is not the correct way of thinking. What if you actually gave something your all? What if it worked out? Why are we just predisposed to negativity and failure? Why is it that we're expecting failure and not success out of life? Why is it that we sabotage ourselves so that by the time we fail, it's a thing we knew from the onset? Why don't we set ourselves up for success? Why don't we imagine a time when we're successful and set ourselves up such that we succeed and we were right about ourselves? So be passionate, or find a thing you're passionate about, and that's where you can apply yourself, body, mind, and soul. Tip number 6 is all about checking your environment. Check your environment. Check the people, check the place, check the time. Check the people you interact with. Who is in your environment? Who is in your circle? Who are you keeping near you? Where are you? What kind of a place are you in? Is the environment conducive for your growth? Where do you find yourself? And are you giving time to the things that you're trying to do? Are you setting up time in such a way that you're able to succeed at the things you do? Do you interact with the wrong crowd in the wrong place and giving it all your time? Or do you interact with positive people that uplift you in an environment that is conducive for your growth, and actually setting aside intentional time to make sure that you succeed at the things you try? You have a bag of tomatoes and they're all fresh from the store. It takes one rotten tomato or potato or whatever veggie. It takes one rotten veggie in the bag to ruin all the others. It literally takes one person who is not good for you to ruin your entire character, to ruin everything that's on the inside of you, because you are the average of 5 people you spend around you.
Honestly, I don't know about 5 people because that sounds like a lot for me personally. But anyway, it's a saying, we'll just go with it.
You are the average of the people you spend time with, the people you surround yourself with, the people you choose to allocate your time, allocate it wisely. Life is not as long as we think it is. Next is about the environment you find yourself in. What kind of an environment are you in? Is it conducive for your growth? If you're a student, do you find yourself good spotong like 90% of your time? Or are you trying to spend your time, in the library or in study groups or with your peers, trying to chow course and, get it over and done with? Where are you spending your time? What kind of an environment is it? Is it an environment that inspires you? Is it an environment that forces you to grow, forces you to put your ducks in a row and, do your stuff? Is it an environment that helps you grow, that nurtures you to grow? Say if you plant a tree and it doesn't grow, or it doesn't grow the way you had wanted it to grow, whose fault is it? Is it the tree, the seed, or the tree? Or is it the soil? Because when you plant something, you want to make sure you prepare the soil, you fertilize the soil, then you plant your thingy and you water your plant regularly to make sure that you make the environment conducive for its growth. The environment you're in, is the soil fertilized? Is the soil prepared for you? Is the soil conducive for your growth? Are you being watered? Are you being nurtured? Do you feel like you are receiving that nurturing and growth from the environment you are in? The last point is about time. Are you allocating enough time to these things that you say won't work, or these things you have seen that you failed at? Did it fail because you didn't give it enough time, or did it fail because it was genuinely not for you? Retrace your steps. If you're a student studying for a couple of tests or a specific subject, your results don't come back as you had hoped they would come back. Retrace your steps. Did you give it enough time? Did you give it the amount of time it deserved? Did you allocate enough time to it? Did you allocate time that is satisfactory to you when retracing your steps? So just pay attention to your environment as a whole, the people in it, the place you're in, and the time you're allocating to the different things in that environment. Point number 7 is how you cope. Avoid bad coping mechanisms. I know life is hard and it's painful to fail. I know that on a very deep level.
I understand it, I get it, I'm with you, I feel you.
But bad coping mechanisms don't make it go away. Turning to the excessive use of drugs, alcohol, turning to, you name it, over indulging in substances and things because you feel like they help you cope, but they're not helping you cope. They're just helping you escape the problem. They're helping you not think about the problem. But once you come out of that state, has your problem gone away? Have you stopped failing just because you're drunk or high, or is your problem gone? Is your problem solved? Are you suddenly not going to fail just because you chose overindulgence over facing your problems? Fear is a problem, and it's unfortunate that substances they have a way of subsiding that fear. They have a way of, you feel like courage is up here, kanti in actual fact it's just that substance playing with the chemicals in your brain, and before you know it, you are now hooked on these things. You depend on these things because you don't have to deal with fear when you're high or when you're drunk. You're too drunk to even do anything about it anyway. But this point is all about making sure that you steer clear of these negative coping mechanisms, because those are the ones that keep you from confronting the real problem. Fear is the real problem, and it's not the fact that you are not, making it in life, or your things are not going well. It's the fact that you're afraid. You're afraid of your things not going well. That's the problem. The eighth and last point is all about taking responsibility. Take responsibility for your part in this situation. What did you do? What did you do? Take responsibility for whatever your part is in the situation. Referring back to the example I made about a student studying for a test or an exam, take responsibility for your part in it. If you wrote a test and it came back and ziyakhala, what was your part in it? Did you study hard enough? Did you study long enough? Did you study smart? Did you apply yourself? Did you try and research more? Did you understand the subject to begin with? There's so many layers to a situation than just I failed, it's the lecturer's fault. What did you do? Take responsibility for your part in it. Just because a thing didn't go your way doesn't mean you didn't have a part in it. Take responsibility for your part in it. We all have a role to play, and we all need to be responsible for our own actions. I hate this notion of entitlement, thinking that the world owes us something. The world doesn't owe you anything. No one, no one owes you anything. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Thrive Out Loud. Again, I really appreciate the love that you guys are showing. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share,
tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend. You know what to do. Bye.